Hi everyone, welcome to this new community show. I'm very excited about this episode because we do have an interview with Adric, which is explaining you everything you need to know about the new Itemisation classification. And we're going to discuss about that in depth with my co-host, which today is Zig. So let's get started. Of course, I'm muted. Thank you.
Wouldn't be a community show without you being muted for the first 10 seconds.
Exactly. So, okay, let's do it again. Hey, Mr. Zeke, I'm so happy to see you. It's really great to meet you for the very first time.
Thanks, Lilo. Appreciate it.
No, that's really nice. I'm very happy to speak with you. You have been a community member for a very, very long time, but recently you have started to create a video about the game on YouTube. Can you explain a little bit why did you started to create this content while it's not what you're doing usually?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think I'm a community member first. You know, I'm a little bit younger than most people that play, EverQuest or that are interested in this game. But I was unfortunately cursed with being in love with EverQuest Online Adventures, which was a brief PS2 game that is no longer in existence. And so I'm kind of a video game nomad ever since that game was shut down. Until I saw this game, Embers Adrift, pop up on Lazy Peon's YouTube channel, which I've been watching for a long time. And while everyone else, thought for some reason this wasn't a good game, I thought it was exactly what I was looking for. So, I've been here for the long ride. I started in November 2022, and I've seen a lot of people come and go. And I love this game. I love this community. I think you guys have a really strong team and a good vision for Embers Adrift, and I felt that it was finally time to hopefully show. I wanted to show what Embers Adrift feels like in a dungeon. I think a lot of people stream Embers Adrift, and it doesn't necessarily portray what this game can feel like in those intense moments when you're really close to a bag run, or you pull off what felt like an impossible fight. And so I started video editing purely because I just wanted to communicate that better, just to demonstrate those intense moments that you don't necessarily see, because a lot of the time, between dungeons, you have it's chill, it's what you would expect from an MMO. It's calm, it's relaxing, you could listen to a book, you can listen to some music and just kind of do your own thing. But when you finally get a group together and get into a dungeon, that's when the game really shines, and I just wanted to show that.
Yeah, and I think you did a really good job with that, because you are very right. And this is what I explained last week, because I showcased your video last week. That we have been discussing about that with Mr. Shire, that it's not always easy to really showcase the game interest, because when you do not know what's going on, Embers Adrift feels very calm or even boring. And so to be able to transfer the interest of the game, which is how I choose my spell, this situation is very tense, this is going to be a danger, that pool is going to be challenging, etc. It's not always easy to share that and to transfer, so I think your video was really spot on that regard.
Thanks. I mean, I hope I want to continue doing more. I think that was kind of like my first foray into a dungeon run. I've got a recording for CV or Forgotten Depths 1 on my Warden. That's a little different perspective, because it's pulling on my Warden. It's a different mechanic. It's a different role. And you're right. I mean, I think when you're doing a dungeon in Embers Adrift, there are times where you can be kind of proactive and preventative. You can see that a pull might be nasty or might be unforgiving, and then there's times where you have to be reactive. You have to just like quickly on the fly change abilities, like adapt to the party composition, and act quickly but with precision. Because if you're careless, you're going to break a stun, you're going to kill the whole group, and people really they don't like that. So it's a difficult balance. But I think that's the balance that we need to communicate to the community and the MMO community that is out there.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that you can also tackle a different encounter with different strategy. So maybe you will have no CC in your group, and then you need to dish out as max DPS, so someone will have to kite or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I've had parties, doing really hard content where I didn't have a healer. Like it was just me and 2 tanks, and we make things work. We trade off who has aggro. One of us will take a hit for a little bit longer, and then the other one will sit down and pop some potions and just kind of trade off. And you just make do with what you got. You can't be picky. And sometimes if I get a brigand in the group and on my juggernaut, I gotta swap to abilities that don't break stuns, just to be cognizant of their class and make the best use of them.
Yes.
But it's a teamwork thing, that's the biggest thing that I really love about this game is it's cooperative, and it requires like a level of teamwork that like you expect from these like end game MMO game loops, that you only experience in WoW at the very end when you're finally max level, or the same thing for many other theme park games.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we wanted to create. So I'm very happy that some players really discover that, enjoy that, and are helping us out to transfer the message and to ensure that other people know about it. Because it's true that Embers Adrift is a different game, where what we wanted is that the game start right away at level 1 and not once you reach max level. So you have the whole journey, which is important and challenging, and where you are discovering different strategy and finding equipment and stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, I came, like I said, I'm a little bit younger than most of the people that play this game. I think most people are like 40s or up, and I'm 31. I've been playing like a million other MMOs. I've played WoW. Most of my friends played World of Warcraft or grew up on that, or like Minecraft, or like those kind of like that generation of game. And I think a lot of people don't really make the connection with Embers that like this game's full of really interesting rare loot that is worth hunting for, that is worth like fiending after. And for me, that was like the Glenn's breastplate from EV Frogs.
Yeah.
That my first experience of like, hey, holy shit, there's a game that there's an item I really want. I spent a whole weekend grinding that on my night when I first started playing, and I finally got it. And that feeling was very similar to the feelings I get when I play RuneScape by myself, and I like I bust my ass for a drop that takes a long time to get to. And when I get it, it's a great feeling. It's a dopamine loop. And this game has it. It's just not as communicated well. So that's why I'm really excited for this itemization change.
Yeah. And speaking of which, let's discover a little extract of your last video.
Like my approach with these videos is that I'm trying to take a 2 to 3 hour dungeon and summarize the more intense experiences of that dungeon run, but also be informational. Like a lot of the new people that I find in the game, I like to play with a lot of random new people from time to time. Those people often have no idea like how to get the most chests out of a dungeon. They don't know how to pull. They don't know what their role is. They don't know what their abilities do, and they don't know a lot of the common things that like those of us that have been around for a long time know about. Like So I'm hoping that with this video is a little bit more informational, less intense, less like, gutsy and doing crazy stuff on my Juggernaut, and more informational for new people. Because often that's my experience when I have a group of new people. I'm just like, hey, just so you know, like chests, their placeholders are rats. Like if you mine the nodes, like you're gonna get more chests. Like these people, like a lot of new people, just have no idea, and the game doesn't really like push it in front of you. So that's kind of my goal. I want to do a couple different things with videos, hard dungeons and show like those crazy encounters on top of like being a little bit more informational and helping new people figure out like those mechanics and get gear, honestly, because like who doesn't want gear? So.
Yeah, exactly. That's a little bit the point of the game. And one of the reasons why it's not well communicated in game is intently because we want people to find by themselves. We want the players to find out the secrets of the game. And I remember the person that introduced me to MMORPG, so a long time ago, back in 2003, and what he told me, and it's a message that I remember, it's what I like in an MMORPG is that this is such a complex game that it takes a long time to really understand every mechanic of it. And once I've done that, then I'm done with the game. And I thought it was really interesting because most people will want to have everything explained right away, everything really obvious, while one part of the pleasure, maybe not for everyone, but one part of the pleasure is to discover and understand.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of why I started working on the wiki pretty early on, because like when I first started, there was no information as to like where things dropped from. People would link random rare items, and I'd be like, "What do I do for that?" Like, if I message them, I could get information out of them and figure it out. But like, it was difficult to make my own goals. That's the biggest thing with MMOs is having is being able to establish your own goals. In my experience, like because this game doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't tell you what to do next. It doesn't tell you what to get next or what to aim for next. But at least with a wiki, I could have some goals for myself to discover what the rare drop is from a name that nobody really touches. And hopefully that means that somebody might wander into that page on the wiki and say, hey, hey, that's actually a really interesting item. Maybe I'll hunt for that, and hopefully that'll mean another group goes into Froggy V looking for Glenn's breastplate. So
Yeah, exactly. And this is a really good occasion to share with everyone that you are a fashion queen. We can say it that way.
queen.
Well, when you will see his character, you will not say that, but he is probably the most fashionable character of the whole community.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you. I just have a philosophy that like there's a lot of really good equipment in this game. There's a lot of like really iconic pieces like the Chithorn pauldrons, that red break light colored pauldron that everyone just swears by, and I love it too. Don't get me wrong, it's great at level 20, but I think that this game shines when you kind of lean in a little bit into your stats, but also like care more about what your character looks like, because there's a lot of really cool skins out there. Some of them are a little bit weird, some of them are pretty generic, but there's some pretty cool looking gear out there. And with that cosmetic slot, you guys have definitely opened up what we can and can't do with making your character just a little bit more personalized.
Yeah, so there again, this is something we wanted because you really have to score in the MMORPG community. You have the people that want to have the transmog and they want to be able to shape their look the way we want. And then you have the other school, which is we want to see this character has been in that dungeon and that's what they are wearing. And
Yeah,
so
I think it's a good balance. I think just 1 or 2 slots, just a minimal amount of like transmog options is great. I'd love to see more dyes in the armor. Some of that armor is like I've been wearing a 10 breastplate for 9 levels now. I would love if I could make it black or something cool.
yeah, that's the kind of things we would like to have too, but it's that's
Yeah, it
where
takes time.
we are restricted by the time we have to create all the things we want. So we have to go to the essential, and that's why Embers Adrift may lack a little bit of fluff, but it's coming step by step. We work
Yeah, I
on
mean,
things.
you guys are obviously working hard. I think this game has a lot of we have a tendency to attract people that are like armchair developers, and I don't their opinions are valid. They're definitely like people have a lot of great ideas for what would make this game amazing. But at the end of the day, development time takes a long time. It's programming is no joke. So I think those of us that are in IT and technological backgrounds understand that and see that. So we appreciate y'all putting this much effort into the game. It takes a long time to make something like this. It's definitely a passion project. So
Yeah, thank you very much. Speaking of which, let's get into the patch note, because we do have a few patch notes to speak. So the patch note we're talking about are on the QA server. So if you want to check them out live, you can go on the QA server and see for yourself. We have the QA server open at the moment, so you guys can try different things and share your feedback. Your feedback is always welcome. So what do we have for next month's patch, or no, for this patch at the end of this month, which is next week actually? We do have the Itemization categorization, which is a really important subject. There is some change in the itemization as well, and we do have more bulletin board quests. We have corrected some bulletin board quests, so your feedback is still very welcome in that regard. And then we do have a new Ember Vein loop, which is the Ember Vein, the frog one in Middleland. I'm going to show the play loop next week. We're going to speak about that. This week we will really focus on the itemization because it's quite an important part of it. And also this was one of the more long-term item on the roadmap, and we decided to push it. And so you're going to discover everything about it with a special interview with Adric, which is explaining everything about this. So that's going to be a very interesting segment. But yeah, let's read the patch note right now. So the patch note for February 20th on the QA server. Common items are shown as basic. So here we're speaking about the categorization of item that you will discover in a moment. When holding the Alt key while a tooltip is active over an item, the power progression will be shown for reference. Zero Chevron Ant from Anthills will now be titled as Swarming to avoid confusion for the bulletin board task. Because, yeah, there had been some confusion. Some people were not understanding why they were not counting. But there are zero chevrons, so they're not really creatures. They're just made to overwhelm you a little bit when you're fighting the anthills without counting really as a full creature. Cannot execute overlays on ability is now red. This typically indicates out of range. Fixed nav issue and some invalid resource spawn in Undercraft. Large bear animation adjustment, they now fall on their belly. And fixed some prompt issue in Dryfoot and Grizzle Pig. So yeah, one of the things we are working, and we have been talking about that last week slightly, is the change in Dryfoot size. We had always a little problem with some of our zone. They are too big, so it's really cool, but it's not nice for the population of the mobs. And one of the problems with Middleland, Redshore Forest, and Dryfoot was that we could not have enough mob without really altering the performance. So we're limited in the number of creatures we can put in a zone. Therefore, if we want to have the zone feel populated, we have only two solutions, which is reducing the zone in size or increasing the population. But the population increase will make problems with performance, so we cannot do that. Therefore, there has been a part of Dryfoot that has been walled, so you cannot access it anymore. It's a part that were not really used for anything but, gathering, and you had the Basilix EV, which was popping up there, but it has changed place, of course. So this is done to ensure that the concentration of mob is high enough and people are not hunting their quill bag for 2 days before they can complete their task in the bulletin board.
I checked out the Dryfoot changes in QA because I also wanted to see whatever items, if I had any items that were changed stat-wise. And I think it was done pretty well. You know, that north area of Dryfoot was untraveled quite a bit. You know, I think it was good for a gathering and such. But it was kind of I think I'm just happy that like those older zones like Meadowlands and Dryfoot are getting a little bit more of a attention from the devs, just because I'm like probably one of those weird people that actually likes Dryfoot quite a bit. I think there's a lot of potential there between like Stronghold and that center dungeon. It's just a really interesting place to be that's very different from the rest of Embers Adrift. So I'm excited that it's getting some attention.
Yeah, and it's true that it's for the people that have known Dryfoot, it might be a little heartbreaking. I know some people that are quite heartbroken about it, but it's for better, and I think a new player will not see that it's weird, because the zone has been nicely cut. It's kind of seamless. And
Yeah, it's good that these places are getting attention, honestly, because I feel like these areas were developed a lot earlier than some of the other like newer, fresher zones that have come out, and your game design philosophy has shifted a little bit. I think just from my experience, I hunt down named a lot. Like Crag was a good example of one that's like almost impossible to hunt down in Dryfoot, and Adric, it sounds like cut down the number of named or the number of places it can spawn by doing this change and stuff. So I'm interested to see like if funneling people into a smaller space will create more engagement with the content that's already there.
yeah, absolutely. And well, it's a question of a learning process. And at first, we really wanted to have large zone for having this feel of adventure and exploration. But then we realized we cannot populate the zone high enough to make them interesting. And I remember very vividly the first time that the dev team has been exploring Dryfoot. So really during the beta or the alpha even, and we were, where are the mobs? It was the first pass and there was no mobs, and we were, oh my god, this is not going to work. And it was really, especially, it was so sparse and this zone was so giant, and that's not going to work for the players.
Yeah, I mean Dryfoot's got a lot. It's like Meadowlands. It's got a couple like random wandering named that are pretty like easy to hunt down for like a solo player or a duo player, and then a couple named that are sprinkled out throughout the zone, but they're very far apart. It definitely feels like you feel the distance when you're like, if you want to kill Kerrigan or you want to kill Crag, you feel that distance when you're having to like run across the map, like looking for that potential spawn. It's just really hard to engage with even from a group perspective. So I'm excited to see it kind of more refined.
Yeah.
I do want to say I appreciate the fixed nav issues and some invalid resource spawns in Undercroft. I made a report on some mushrooms being inaccessible in Undercroft this week, so I appreciate that my reports are being heard. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course, we try our best to do the change that need to be changed, and some change are taking too much time and we cannot implement them immediately, but some are more easy to do, like those, etc. And yeah, the idea is really to find the right balance between to have good activity to do and good things that players can engage with while still maintaining this exploration feel and the traveling distance, because we do believe even if walking from one spot to another kind of can be boring sometimes, it's also what really gives you this feeling of I am traversing a world and I am actually there. When you have a game where fast travel is a little bit too easy, you lose this sense of connection with the game and with the world, and that's something we really want to work on. And it has bad side and good side, so it's really a question of balancing that correctly without it being too annoying, but still maintaining, because when a game is too convenient, then you don't really get into it as much.
Yeah, I think Mazoff is in chat talking about Bluff Bacon and some of those harder names that are like difficult to spawn, and I think Bluff Bacon's a weird exception because it feels like it's a mob that you can actually like hunt down, and its placeholder is pretty identifiable, whereas like some things like Crag are like really, really difficult to pin down because its placeholder could just be mixed into a group of random basilisks. So I think I like what you guys are doing with like providing some context clues around like how to spawn certain named and how to get things to pop up and just to get people to engage with the content more proactively, because otherwise you could walk by a bunch of mobs and have zero idea that like something in there is stopping a name from popping up. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm excited to see what you guys shift and change over the next couple of months.
It's true that it's require a community that's a little bit inquisitive, and so let's be talking a little bit about itemization. So let's get into the topic of the week, and I'm going to play the interview with Adric, and after that, Zig and myself who will be talking in depth about what we think about those changes. Are you ready, Zig?
Ready to go.
Hello, Adric. Thank you so very much for joining this community show.
Problem.
So we have something really exciting to speak about, which was in the low priority on the roadmap list and
Long term.
long term. Yes. And so, can you explain a little bit about the itemization and why we are doing it and why we are doing it right now?
Right. So I think on the roadmap it was listed as itemization categorization, which is a bit of a mouthful. But basically it's color tiers for items in the game. There's a little bit of history on why we didn't have this originally. Rare items were supposed to just stand apart from all the other items in the game. But as the game has progressed and iterated and changed, we have, hundreds or over, well over 1,000 rare items. And that's not even including, the thousands of variants of crafted items in the game as well. So it became apparent that we needed better communication to the player in terms of what it is that they're getting either through loot or crafting, like how to compare these items against each other, not necessarily just in terms of statistical numbers, but also just like how much might this be worth to another player. And I guess a third part as to why it's kind of stepped up in importance is we're starting to introduce, these items appearing more often off of just regular mobs and not just rare spawns and named mob, where you might expect something to pop up in the loot window, with your group, that you might have to roll need on. But if it's just a random drop while you're just adventuring, there needed to be some sort of indication to the player that something special just did drop and it might need your attention. So colors are a great way to do that. There's standardization of that in the industry, and I think the first part of what we needed to do was kind of define these different sets that we wanted to align items into, and then make sure that everything that we have already fits into one of these categories. So the ones that we chose are basic items, which are your typical white borders, items you buy from merchants, maybe fairly common off of wildlife or anything else in the game. And then we have advanced items, which are green bordered, which will come frequently from, they might be the more common drops from some of the named, or you might get them from some of the soloable named, such as in the new EV loops. Or some of the crafted items, which are slightly better than the stuff that you find at the merchant, would fall into that advanced category. So, provisioner's potions, for example, we'll be marking that as this advanced category with the green border. Above that, we have superior items, which is kind of like a light blue. We also include in that the imbued items, which are the crafted items with flux. So flux itself will get this light blue. We actually moved the text for crafted items. They used to indicate the level of flux that you used in the name of the item. And we moved that into this categorization category. So you no longer have to have this like superior imbued jute linen pants as the name of the item. It can just be jute linen pants, and then the color and the category kind of tell the rest of the story. So reduce some of the length of the name of some of those crafted items, which is
Nice.
a great bonus to this. Yes. So then above the superior quality, we have the relics, which which are a more dark blue, and then mythical items are purple. Legendary items, a lot of these I think mostly come from the bosses in the game. Those like really challenging mobs with skulls on their portrait. Um, and then we have the unique category, which
Ah.
we have it as gold. And unique is very interesting. Um, so as I was going through and kind of aligning everything that we have into these colors, figuring out which one they are, there were a lot of outliers. And a lot of these are items that players are very familiar with in the game. Um, Wolffang earrings, Hoggett's bracer, Kate's bracer, where they do something unique outside of the realm of what all the other items of a similar slot can possibly do. Or another example maybe is the Chaos Hatchet from Undercroft, and it has a very unique damage range where it has a very wide range but a very high range. So it's very unpredictable in terms of the damage that you get from it, but overall pretty strong. So a lot of these items went into this unique category, which I think is great too, because they kind of have like a little history in the community, and they really do stand out from the other items. So I felt like that was a good designation for them.
So with those items, it's not so much that they are better or superior to, let's say, a mythic item, but they are just different, unique. So it's up to your appreciation to see if it's something that you want, that you find desirable for your build, or some might be weird. I guess like this sapping belt, I think, from the fluted ring, which is really,
that's another example.
Yeah, okay. So that's quite interesting. So that doesn't mean it's better. That doesn't mean it's more rare. It just means it's its own thing. So it's really unique.
Right, and that's a good point too. You used the word rare. We specifically chose the terminology here to kind of disconnect from rarity, because we wanted to not follow that common, uncommon, rare, typical progression, and allow these things to have their own rarity outside of their functional power, because I think there's a lot of assumptions that come from this item is rare, therefore rarer than this other item, therefore it should be stronger. But that's not always going to be the case.
Okay, that's pretty interesting, because indeed people are used to have those kind of green, blue, purple, and orange across most games, and more you get into the colors, or the rarer it is, and then the more powerful it is, and rare goes together with powerful. But in our game, rare does not specifically mean more powerful.
Right. I would say it trends that way, but it's not 100%. We could have some quests, for example, we have that might reward some mythic gear that maybe have significant importance to the lore, and that's why they're rewarded, and not necessarily like it wasn't a long and arduous quest. And I guess that like similar ones that I think about from like other games where you might do a dungeon, and a quest reward for doing the dungeon might actually be better than some of the rare rewards that you got from the dungeon. So that's something like that.
Okay, so here the color will more imply the quality of the item and its power.
Right. Yeah.
Except for the unique item, which is unique, and
Right,
they are their own
they're really
thing.
off on their own. Yeah.
Okay, but that's really interesting. That's a good way of categorizing things, but the players need to be really aware of what mean what, which is why we do have this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's good to communicate these sort of things too. And like already from the community on the QA, you know, they like certain items they wanted to see, like we originally not labeled the the white items as basic, but we did, after some feedback, we did decide to label all of those. And then for now, we are labeling some things like quest items also get a little, but there's multiple places on there where we indicate an item as quest. So we'll be looking for some feedback on things like that.
Quite interesting. Now I have another question. The work that has been done is the categorization of the items. There is no work that has been done on the statistic of the items themselves, right?
No, that's not true. So in preparation for creating these buckets of items that have a certain range of statistics that can be that allow them to be in one bucket or the other, one category or the other. There was slight alignments on a lot of the items. I think we said in like the patch notes that the scope of that is probably too large to itemize, list out for all the players on an individual item by item basis. But there's no like overarching negative or positive. I will say a lot of the lower level items got significant increases, especially jewelry. With the low levels, we're seeing jewelry that were probably too underpowered to fit into our goals for itemization. So we took this opportunity to bring all of those up to where they should be.
Oh, so it's basically Christmas. And just when we have a free trial opening at the end of the month. It's perfect.
Yeah, and I think it definitely helps just with like that feeling of seeing the loot pop up and it's a different color and immediately that it's something good and you don't have to dig into the stats quite yet. And I think that initial feeling is very helpful too, especially for a new player.
Oh, that's really nice. The unique items have not been reworked, or have they been reworked as well?
I don't believe any of them have been reworked at all.
Okay, so they stay their own things.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there were any that got slight adjustments, but I don't think any of them have been changed at all.
Well, if it happened, it's just a detail, so not something important. Otherwise, you will remember.
Yeah.
So
Like
last,
if there were adjustments to those items, they probably would not have been continued to be uniques.
okay, makes sense. What will be the future for the itemization? What are the plans for the game moving forwards?
Yeah, so like this work we really wanted to get done. And I guess I'll circle back to as to why we did it now after I answer that question, because I forgot to answer that part of that question earlier. Was one for an upcoming changes to crafting, which were also on the long-term roadmap, is we wanted to add, better communicate where the current crafting system sat in terms of its relative power compared to drops within the world. But then also that allows us to potentially add more variants within crafting so that you could get, more power within some of your crafted items. So maybe a little tease for something in the future for crafting, even better than imbued items.
Ooh, that's quite
And
interesting.
and circling back, the why we did it now. So like I've alluded to, like some upcoming crafting changes, that work has been living on a separate branch now since basically December. I've been started work on that, and this was going to be a similar thing where I worked on it on a separate branch, and it is just like in the background, one of our long-term goals. But as the work started, we realized that it would be touching every single item in the game, and trying to manage a branch that touches every single item in the game while also adding items to the game and making adjustments and the normal balancing and dev work, that those two were highly conflicting and that there were lots of merge problems with the code. So I just sat down and said, all right, I think we can get through this in a month, so let's just do it. And once we started, it just kept rolling forward and pushed through to get it done.
And I think it's really perfect because as we have this free trial that open at the end of the month, the new players will be immediately used to this new system. So it was really the kind of system to get early. I know a lot of them are very beneficial and the players are expecting them with a relative impatience, but we cannot do everything at the same time. So that's already a really good surprise that something we thought would take much more time will already be finished and completed and included in the game much earlier.
Yeah, I mean the trial, it's only going to encompass New Haven Valley, the southern part of the Central Veins, smugglers are, and then I think we're including the city. I think that was part of it as well. And of that list of the roadmap, there weren't a lot of things that would impact that content directly, and this was one of them. So yeah, it is nice to see that this will impact trial users.
Okay, so now
in a positive.
Important question: the Misha tunic. What color?
So, because Misha is a 4-chev, quite challenging, especially if you're just starting out in New Haven Valley.
Yeah, and her tunic is very precious. People that get it wear it for a long time.
So it'll be purple, which is our mythical level.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah, Misha's tunic. Yeah.
Yeah. So
there you go.
to all new player, you know what you have to do in New Haven Valley. That's need to be part of your trial. Spawning Misha, hunting Misha, and defeating Misha, which is not an easy feat.
Right, getting those early level mythics, especially for the trial users. I think those will be like good goals for them to accomplish before they purchase the game and head north of the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent. Well, thank you so very much, Adric, for all those precision and to take the time to give those explanations. So it's really clear for the player what they can expect with the new itemization, categorization. It's a very, very exciting time, and I think everyone will be excited, especially when you know that a lot of items have been buffed, actually.
Yeah, and it feels great, to see those popping up on the loot window, and really hits you in a good way. Yeah. I love it.
Thank you so much. See you soon, Adric.
Yep, thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, so what do you think about this interview?
I think it's great. This is something that I think the community has been asking for a really long time. So I'm glad that you guys have kind of pushed it to the front and prioritized it, because especially with jewelry, it's always been a pain point with name drops just not having the stats that you would expect from the jewelry that you get. Because honestly, like, it feels like 99% of the time you get like a nice earring or ring or necklace or belt, and it's like almost always better just to stick with your crafted piece, and that has never felt right, So I'm excited to see those changes.
Yeah, that's true. And this is, of course, done in preparation to the incoming crafting change that are being worked on also in parallel to whatever we are currently working on. So which is why we cannot really tell when those changes are going to be implemented, because they are a long, tedious work that Adric is working together to the more, like the new Ember vein or whatever is the current content that we want to push for the player. So, but I'm very happy and surprised that this is something that has been able to be completed for the player to enjoy. And I think it will be really nice, especially for the new player, if we have, trial player that want to try the game and see it's going to be a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, I think between like improving the stats so they actually are more impactful and also creating a way to like communicate directly with new players that what dropped is actually really rare or really good or potentially good is going to go a long ways, especially in those early zones. So I'm excited to see how that happens. And honestly, like I think even later on, as you guys deploy some of those crafting changes, I think it'll be a really warm welcome, because a lot of that stuff like level 30, the jute pants, the jute tunics, they kind of overshadow everything else within the same level bracket or even higher. So I'm excited to kind of see everything fit better together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that I want to precise to Mazov, which was asking, so beside the unique item that are unique and special and weird, so they're the weirdos, because they're unique and they are different. But otherwise, the progression will be quite obvious. So you will have the basic one, which are white, then green, cyan, blue, purple, and orange, which are the legendary. They are not specifically rare, but they are increasing in power, which is why we have changed the terminology and not have the white called common, but called basic instead, to not have the green one called uncommon, but they are called advanced, etc., etc. So we really wanted to not associate naming convention to a rarity, because that will not be really exact, but more to the power and the potency of that said item. So the crafted item, the regular crafted item are green, so advanced, and the imbued crafted item are cyan or light blue, which is slightly better. And it might leave the possibility, like Adric has been teasing, that we might have even better that imbued crafted item.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Just implementing like a way to increase the effectiveness of something that's crafted with something that you can only acquire via dungeon or some sort of group content. I think that's a good way to do things. I do think that just players from more traditional MMOs might be a little bit confused, because unique is yellow, and I feel like that kind of overlaps a little bit with like traditional legendary orange items. So maybe one day there's a good compromise between those two color gradients. But I do like the idea of having some sort of note saying that this is a unique item. Like a good example is the Widow Bow in CV2. Like that's probably one of maybe two bows with a frontal positional, let alone one that has damage on the front. So that is incredibly unique, and I don't know, I can't speak to whether it's rare or not, but it is something that should be sought after, or something that should be appreciated when it does drop.
Yeah, and there's some other item like the sapping belt, which is unique as well. And the sapping belt has a very nice bonus, but it also have a malus. And so that's also the kind of item where, do I want that? Will it be interesting for the way I play the game? Because it has a lot of, I think it says a lot of, I don't remember the stat on the sapping belt. I have 2 in my inventory and I don't remember them. But
I think it's 10 haste, and I think like on QA it was moved to like 17, but maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, we will see it in a moment because it show up on the screen. So I've wanted to showcase a little bit some items that were on my character and in my bank, so people can have an idea of what this categorization is actually. And there's the sapping bell, so we might see it in a moment. But that's really one of those items that can be interesting or can maybe not be interesting at all. And so you will have to find out for yourself. While when you have a blue item, usually it should be a an advancement from what you're currently wearing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, that's the thing about this game, is it's like that like level of how valuable an item is there. Like if you're a stat nut like me, like you're going to be looking at that stuff and be able to identify when something is different or odd and take advantage of that. And I don't think that, I think after this will be much more clear to people that aren't necessarily as nerdy as me.
Yeah, and now we are making the wiki team to have to work hard again.
Hey, it's worth it. And honestly, the color change isn't that big of a deal. It's, you know, it's something that we can do, especially when we have more people.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
shout out to Kip. He's been doing some good work over there. He's been really trying to prepare the New Haven Valley page for the free-to-play weekend. So I think he's done a great job.
Oh, that's
that.
really, really, really nice.
I'd suggest checking it out. It's amazing. It looks way better than anything I could have put together. I'm not a web dev, so.
So yeah, so Mazov, I think that what you were saying earlier, that if the goal is to make it easier to identify an item's worth, I think it will achieve that role. But you will have to figure it out for yourself and see if you think we did a good job or not, if Adric did a good job or not.
Yeah, and Elloa was just mentioning that the wiki might need some updating, but hey, that's how it goes. So at least the items aren't changing that much, but it's a worthy endeavor. You know, we've come a long way since November 2022. So
No, it's a little bit not exactly related to this subject of itemization, but Mazov was making a comment related to the the spawn of the named mob. It would be nice if we had a same name mob spawning at several places, so we can camp it at the same place. And that's exactly why we designed the game like we design it. We don't want player to sit at a camp. We want players to have to roam around and explore, which is why we have done a system where the mobs are not spawning specifically at the same place, but you need to kill placeholder to make it spawn, and you do not know where it spawns. So that has been done intentionally. Maybe it will be revised in some case, maybe in some not, but I think that's what we want, and we want to have more dynamic spawn system rather than something very static.
Yeah, I'd love personally. I think a lot of this game developmentally was made like with the assumption that there's going to be, you know, hundreds of thousands or thousands of people roaming around just killing stuff, and I think that was a safe assumption. But the population is pretty small, so like the amount of engagement that a placeholder might get on a week-to-week basis could be near zero. You know, so there's a chance that, like, you know, during a server reset phase, like a name never gets killed. So I would personally love to see one day maybe like a way to like passively refresh the mobs and you know, incentivize people to come and engage with the content because, hey, there's a big name there. But you know, this comes with time. So
Yeah, I think one of the bulletin board idea was also to create a little bit more of movement towards different camp. The quests are also usually designed in directing players without really telling them that we're directing them there. But that's a little bit the way we're doing right now. It's to funnel the player towards the interesting area, to educate them in some way to this is an interesting place. Maybe you want to hang out later once you've done your quest. You may want to come back to this place because there might be cool stuff happening here. And so I think we will want to make it more subtlety, but the game needs obviously correction and polish, and that's something we are always working on, and your feedback is really nice on that regard, so we can really re-estimate, revalue things.
yeah, I think the quest and bulletin approach now, I think for really like steering people towards like those camps and pushing them to engage with them is a good way to compromise. You know, that was something that Adric and I talked about during the meeting last week, was maybe like giving us the chance to like redo a quest so that we can re-engage with the content, or, you know, with the bulletins provide like an alternative solution to a bulletin that might require that you kill a named instead. You know, if you got to kill frogs in Meadowlands, maybe you can also kill Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of opportunity with the things you guys are developing going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys want to speak directly with Adric, little commercial for the weekly meeting on Discord, you can join and speak with Adric every week, the Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central American time, if my calculations are good. You can check out the event list to see it in your own time zone on the event list on Discord. If you are in Europe or in Australia, Oceania, etc., it might not be an ideal time, but otherwise, come and join the meeting. This is the occasion of having a nice discussion and give your feedback directly, share your feeling, and listen to what Adric has to say. There is a lot of design decisions that are taken with those meetings, so do not think it's a waste of time. Even if we start by chit-chatting and speaking about the weather, whatnot, with the different players, once Adric come in, everything that the player are saying are gathered in notes and shared in the design meeting afterwards. So it's never time wasted.
Yeah, I don't get to go because I play D&D on those nights most of the time, but you know, it's every time I can, it's worth it. So I enjoy participating in those for sure.
So no Guasli DPS. This is going for the next patch. So we are always doing one big patch per month where we are adding the content and we're speaking and chatting and teasing about what's going at the patch at the end of the month, during the whole month. So you guys can test it on QA when you want. It's not always possible, but here in this case it is. So you can now go on the QA server and test it out. And at the end of the month, so next week, that will be released. So for now, you're not going to have it. It's a regular maintenance we're doing today. Sometimes we do have a hot fix or something like this, but generally you don't have a patch every week. You have a patch once a month. There it is. So that's for the big itemization, customization. Is there anything else you want to add regarding that subject?
No, I think you guys are doing a great job with itemization. And like I said, it's something that we've all wanted for a really long time. So it's nice to see it, you know, actually the stats and changes actually going through. So I'm excited to see what the final product looks like and how you guys evolve things as time goes forward. So it's definitely one of those sore spots that us, you know, more long-term neckbeards have had for a long time and have been asking for. So thank you for hearing us. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's very nice. So we had a very nice and long discussion. So I'm going straight to the weekly game this week. So we're not going to do any community news this week. And let's see who has played this week. Let's see who has played. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so last week, what it was? Say it with flower. You know, last week we were the Valentine's Day week thing, so I made it like that. Offer flower, receive flower from someone, show off the trade window as proof. And we had 2 entry. Katira and Flub. So guys, I'm disappointed. You didn't want to exchange flower with other people? So disappointed. Alright, so here you have Katira, which is back. Katira has been winning the community game very often. I'm pretty sure that Katira's inventory has been increased significantly thanks to the weekly game. So do not miss the weekly game. It's good things to make money. Yeah, promise. And here we have Flub, which has offer flower to what? So nice. Thank you very much, guys, for participating. That's really great. So now we are going to pick up the winner. There it is. 1 to 2. Let's see. 1, it's Katira. 2 is Flub. So let's see what's going to happen. Congratulations, Katira, you won. You won. Welcome back. Welcome back to the game. Welcome back to Embers Adrift. Well done. Well played. So we do have a new game for next week because you guys don't seem to enjoy exchange flower with other player. So I made it more simple. You and your friends fighting together. Okay? I want to see plenty of screenshot next week, okay? I count on you guys. If you have won the game, please contact me in-game or on Discord so I can give you your one piece of gold. Until we do not have a mail system, I cannot send it to you automatically, so we have to do it that way. So please poke me before I completely forget. Thank you very much. And not 1 month later, because then I will forget and it will count as cheating. All right? Let's do that. There it is. That's it. So, Mr. Zig, are you excited about the new Ember Vein loop?
Yeah, I mean, all my characters are over leveled for it. I think my Zerker might be able to do it, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it'll be the solo loops are interesting. I think for me because the gear that it offers, and I think people will be happy that there's alternative ways to fill the finish the bulletin. So
yeah, and do you think that you enjoy those new solo playable content? Do you think it's a good addition to the game? What's your opinion regarding this?
I think it's a needed addition. I think it's definitely a good jumping point. Personally, I'm not a very solo centric player. You know, if I'm on, I'm usually running around trying to kill named or like gathering or crafting or just trying to help people out. Like I usually play my 39 Juggernaut and my 32 Knight if like exclusively in parties. So I'm trying to do the group content with those characters. So I level slower than most people, but some people have to have those bulletins or like a way to like create a goal for themselves. I don't have that issue. I've never really had that problem. I've always got something I want to work towards or get. So I don't necessarily engage with it too much. I've got a bulletin for pretty much every zone I go into, but I would I'd love to see that tool be leveraged to like funnel people towards working together, in the future.
But that's absolutely what we wanted. And like I have repeated many times, the idea is to keep player busy before they can get into the group content and to encourage them to stay longer.
Yeah, I think, one thing I'd love to see come back is there was some random community member that used to like OCR the world chat and put it in Discord to say so we could see when groups are coming through, when groups are starting to form when you're not in the game. That's one thing that I think people struggle with is like the only time you can, if you're on for like a 3-hour window and like the first hour or so the group isn't forming, then like there goes your night, So it's kind of nice to be able to just like monitor what's happening in the game outside of the game. So I do miss that sometimes, but I think these kinds of changes are definitely a nudge in the right direction. And Zoc is right. I definitely should have a level 50 by now, but I don't. I'm sorry.
But it's nice so we can play with him.
Yeah, he wants me to tank for him. That's what he wants.
Oh, so that's nice. I think it's important. Alice is saying, psst, guys, Zig is a wiki MVP, so make sure you say thank you. So thank you, Zig, for your hard work in the wiki and to the whole wiki team that is working on it.
Yeah, I'm glad to help. I'm definitely more of a communal player. I like to share everything I get, and if I'm not using it, I give it away because I need the bank space. So. And I'm often killing stuff just to fill the wiki, so I have a lot of random crap.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, thank you so very much, Zig, for joining. It was really nice to talk with you. And thank you a lot for the content you're providing and for the community involvement. So,
for sure, yeah. Hopefully I can push some more stuff out soon, so keep an eye out.
Yeah, thank you so very much. You take care. And to each and every one of you, thank you very much for watching the community show. You can check us live every week with a different co-host during the maintenance on Twitch TV on my channel. It starts at 6 p.m. Central Europe time, which is 11 a.m. Central American time. Those episodes are also published without all of the technical problems on YouTube as soon as I can edit them. Thank you so very much. You take care, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.